Ouroboros co-founders, Paula and Alisa, who will be moderating the space tonight for all of us. Um, so if you have some questions, then make sure to comment down or reply in the tweet of this space. Feel free, guys, and later on you're open to requests to even ask questions. So feel free to do that. Further on, passing the mic to both of you, Paula and Alisa. The space is yours.
Hello, everyone. So happy to see some familiar faces and some new faces here today. So we are here to talk about the intersection of social media and Web3 and the opportunities for creators. I am the co-founder of Ouroboros. Thank you, Suranjan, for the introduction. Ouroboros is the digital luxury fashion house. For anyone who is new to what we do, I'll give you a little bit of a history now. We launched the brand in 2021. We became the first ever digital fashion brand to showcase at a major fashion week, which we did in London. Since then, we've gone on to dress 2.5 plus million people through AR. We've gone on to dress Marilyn Monroe together with the Marilyn Monroe estate, Grimes, and many, many more. So keep your eyes peeled. There's a few exciting announcements we have coming soon. But now back to our spaces. So a little bit of a blurb for you here. Over the past few years, we've seen a rapid rise in the popularity of Web3 economy and its potential impact on the creators and on social media. Countless creators have been born digitally, generating over $4 billion. I'm sure some of you here are very much part of this, in revenue as of today, February 2023 alone. This intersection presents a new era of opportunity for creators to monetize their work, build stronger relationships with their audience, and take control of their intellectual property. However, with this new landscape comes many questions and challenges that we are here gathered today to dive into. And now I'll pass over the mic to Alisa. Thank you.
Hi guys, thank you so much, Paula, for the little intro. I'm the other co-founder and the creative director, and today we have specially selected some of our dear friends in our network and some notable creators within one of the hottest NFT and digital fashion communities out there. So we have some incredible artifact creators here. For those who don't know, which I think is very difficult, artifacts are creators of virtual sneakers and collectibles, really merging reality in fashion and gaming. So without further ado, we have here Natasha Fawn from Dematerialize as a community strategist. Natasha, if you're here, open up the mic, say hello.
Hi everyone, hi Lisa, hi Paula.
So nice to hear you again. Next up, we have John Trotter. So Johnny, the CEO of Johnny's Cake. Hello and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Great to hear from you. Then we have Alt Anonymous, the creator at MetaHeads.
Hello, hello.
Welcome. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Next up and last but not least, we have Vega Siege, the interactive designer at Tidal and the CEO of Vega Earth.
What's good, gang? It's so good talking to you guys again. You know you're my favorites. And
We missed you.
I appreciate you guys having me, man, and I appreciate you providing the stage. It's crazy, all these blue checks up here, man. I got to get my Twitter up, so definitely tap in with me, everyone.
Yeah, I'm also not blue ticked yet. Don't worry, we'll be the new blue tick.
Amazing. For all the listeners, please follow everyone, get to know their projects. Feel free to pin anything relatable right at the top of the Twitter spaces. But essentially today we're going to discuss a few points specific around the artifact community, because we are such fans of what you guys are doing, and it would be really good to know how you explored that incredible IP and how that has added into your value and journey. And maybe we can start with you, Vega. We had an incredible discussion in Paris about what you're doing, and it was so exciting to hear. So maybe you want to shine some light on that.
Yeah, for sure. To be honest, I haven't really tapped fully into the IP of my clone. But I definitely have some great plans, and I want to do some cool things and kind of like build a persona and build a virtual lifestyle with it. And I really do love what the Artifact community has done. I think that they definitely have one of the best and top ecosystems in the game, and I definitely think it's going to play as a blueprint when it comes to digital collectibles, when it comes to bridging the physical gap between physical product and virtual, and just the way that they move with this being such a new space. Like, I just respect it so much, and it's like, right now, and of course in this bear market that we're in with NFTs, I feel like the collection and the community still holds value, and I think that it's going to be like a ticking time bomb once things ramp back up and we get back into the swing of things, and the foundation is already going to be set. Like, they definitely set the blueprint, and I would say it's my favorite collection and one of the strongest. So, yeah, that's my spiel about Artifact.
I love that. And honestly, bag me, because markets are going to do what they're going to do. They go up and down, but we have an incredible sense of community here. And I'm opening up the mic for all of these questions to anyone who wants to directly jump in. So take it away. But if I can point anyone, I would love to hear maybe something from Johnny over here.
Hey, yeah. Yeah, being a digital designer for the last 15 years, it just seemed like the best kind of project to kind of just jump into. Also knowing personally Zaptio for many, many years before they started this project, and him coming from the exact same realm as me, from, designing to social media to sneakers in general, physical product in general, and then kind of just transitioning. So just kind of made the most sense, and being in here and just kind of riding the wave with the creatives. And yeah, it's we're building something pretty cool.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? I really admire hardcore, um, collectors. And obviously you're such a collector, like an OG kind of sneakerhead and everything. I'd love to know how you went from physical to digital. How did you make that leap, and why did you think that Artifact was the right one to do that?
Yeah, so I have like an interesting position in this space. Like, I've always said I'm the only customizer that doesn't actually customize. So I kind of like transitioned the way customs were done in a way over just the last few years, how it's like everyone was very an independent artist, doing their own things based off of commissions. And I've always been a digital concept creator for sneakers. So like I've always just gone to Photoshop and Illustrator and then just done overlays and skins and all this other stuff. And then in 2020, I actually partnered up with real live makers from all over the world that just happened to be like colleagues and friends, and all this other stuff. And I just basically started handing them my digital renders of shoes on Jordans and Nikes and everything like that. And I designed them in such a way that they didn't look like they were digital renders. So I was taking real photos of real shoes and then adding skins on top of them. So it was basically like zero lost in translation in a way. So I was designing it to the exact specifications that the maker should be able to make it. And so it was like a very, very natural transition, because all of my thoughts, all of my renders were all just digital in the beginning, and then makers would turn them into reality over months of physical work, and then we would drop them as collaborations. And being a sneakerhead, I would pretty much commission them to make the shoe that I designed. So I kind of got into this designing shoes not based off of commissions, but based off of every shoe I've ever wanted in my collection, and then I would just hand it out to different makers, and then we would actually come together and drop it as a collaboration. Um, and that's just kind of how it's kind of works. So for me, this was just like a very, very easy transition, because I've always been a digital artist, and then handing my digital work to physical artists to have it made. And so with that, this is no different. Now my digital is getting attached to physical, and then it's living on the blockchain and having a lot of different use cases as far as the technology in which we have at our disposal.
Yeah, I love that. Actually, I guess another question, and then we'll pass the mic on to someone else. But what really excites you when it comes to the digital medium, right? Because I think for us personally, one of the things that we're really kind of proud of with our own work is that we love pushing the boundaries of what is possible with fashion, right? I mean, we come from like a very kind of traditional fashion background, but more of the luxury kind of, the runway, put it that way, the very elaborate kind of beautiful, crazy fashion that you see on the runway. That's kind of our background. And so digital for us was such an exciting way of thinking, wow, how can we really elevate what people feel and see as high fashion? And I guess for you as a sneakerhead, I'd love to kind of hear from your perspective what you're excited about when it comes to digital materials or just working with the digital medium, and where do you see all of this kind of in terms of the creator side for sneaker collection going?
Yeah, it opens up the possibilities. It's really kind of endless in a way, because like even me, I design sneakers in the way where a lot of the time I don't think about the real world manufacturing. And so a lot of the time I realize after the fact that some things just aren't doable in the real world, right? And so this is where digital comes in, right? Because the possibilities of AR and VR and overlays and turning one single garment into tens of thousands of options based off of overlays, and you know what you guys are really doing. That's the thing that excites me, I think, the most, is like the possibility and the bridge of what is possible, what we view as possible, is going to be blurred in the way where it's going to be pushed, where single garments will turn into tens and thousands, and then the individual creator can then kind of just create their own skins and overlay it in that way. So with traditional manufacturing, obviously, there's just certain barriers that you just can't pass, especially right now. But you guys are helping push that quite far.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, definitely. It's so nice kind of seeing that there's been such a massive leap for sneakerheads, and it seems to be quite a natural progression. I think because obviously a lot of sneakerheads have, as you were describing as well, and kind of as your own journey, have been working with digital. But it's interesting, I think, in terms of like more of the other very collectible, fashion items, whether it's handbags or jewelry, hasn't fully kind of gone um, as popular and viral yet. So we're still kind of to see that, and that's where I guess the whole Meta Birkin situation was really interesting for more of like a feminine audience who collects, fashion as well. So anyone who wants to jump in and share some thoughts on what happened there, do join now.
I just want to tap in on this. I think this is quite a funny one because whenever I think about you know just Web3 kind of fashion in general, I always think, why do we need bags in the metaverse? Like that's one thing that always, I actually own a DMAT handbag, which just shows that you buy things even though there's no utility to it. I can see the kind of utility when it comes to like accessories or clothing or whatever, but like really, like, do we really need handbags in the metaverse? But I guess I've just answered my own question because I bought one as well. So
Don't be a hater. Get the
yeah,
bag.
I'm not I'm hating on my own collection. But I do love what you were saying about kind of like pushing the boundaries with digital fashion. I think that's one thing that's really interesting, coming from, again, like a kind of traditional kind of fashion background. I see digital fashion as being like that next level couture stuff, right? Like this is like really where designers can like have so much fun with it. And that's how I see couture, versus like ready to wear. Ready to wear collections, they're the stuff that the designers have to make, and they're inspired by the brand like vision, and maybe certain collections have different kind of themes and things like that. But I feel like couture is really where like designers can like push limits, have the most fun, really show off their skill and technicality and all that kind of thing. And I love that digital fashion is almost like the couture of the metaverse or whatever. It's like you can really push like design and boundaries throughout, like to the furthest kind of limit. So that's really exciting for me, and I love seeing how people like translate that. And it's just there is no limit to what you can create in terms of fashion, because you don't have to think about those physical restraints.
No, that's absolutely right. And to be honest, when we've started our journey within digital fashion, we've really established that it's craft, right? Like coming from the effects industry and gaming, and as Johnny was saying, this kind of your own pipeline and process of overlaying, finding the right fit just to make that beautiful image or illusion, or how we refer to as magic realism, to be in between those two worlds to showcase a new vision of a product or reimagination. It's all about putting that mastery and skill and learning beyond that and teaching others and just showing a new level of quality, which is so exciting, right? I think even if you look at our avatars, for example, on mine and Paula's profile, you can see the level of detail that we're getting with the style of hyperrealism that is still within the digital realm, and that's just going to evolve more and more. And I'm so excited to see all of your different clones too, because you can see incredible amounts of details even within like the more kind of playful aesthetic, because there's so much identity involved, so much storytelling, and everything is kind of hidden in its symbology. So definitely as creators here, I find it amazing that we can take that into another level and play with that IP and add more onto it. So I'd love to know, maybe even from Alt Anonymous, how do you take, for example, your image that you now own and you put new layers of yourself into it? Like that process really fascinates me. So I hand over the speaker to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think you're right. Like these are tools like for the ability to add details and to customize things and to use them in different mediums. Like that's what really drew me to this space in general, was just the concept and idea of having a digital identity that I could build with, right? I mean, I chose the anonymous route, like to leave some of the Web 2 baggage behind, but like I looked for a while. I was looking at options, and I was very selective, and didn't really find what I wanted until Artifact decided to drop the news that they were going to be doing an avatar project, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is going to be my path. And yeah, the tools that they gave us with these files, like my focus is like storytelling, and that's my background as well. So like I wanted to kind of utilize these assets and kind of show people like new and fun ways to use them, whether it's about like renders or like cinematics and AR, VR events, fidgetals, like kind of bridging that gap between all these communities too. That's one of the great things about the Artifact ecosystem, is all these individual projects, because they inspire others, and it just kind of keeps growing and growing and growing. So I see the future of like this Ready Player One style world with this ecosystem of blockchains, projects, and communities, that kind of form around this like version of this new creative economy. And that's what makes me super passionate about the Web3 potential with the digital fashion side too. Is the fact that along the way we're also shaping the world in a better way, because it's going to be more sustainable, right? It's going to be more upgradable. Like Johnny was hinting to some of this stuff, like less waste, more customization. Like I'm a big proponent to the Proteus effect, which is kind of the dichotomy of like how we become our avatars and how they influence us as well. Like I feel like I get to express myself like more closer to my actual vibe and the values that I embody, like more in Web3 than I can actually do like in the physical realm. Like I don't have as much fun, right? As it, whether I'm designing and creating things or even sporting the style that I like, I enjoy it much more in the Web3 side of things. And I think it's important, that we kind of all embody that, because it's up to us to kind of take the lead as a community and as creators to continue to kind of help build things out to help develop the multiverse that we want to kind of be a part of, right?
Yeah. No, I love that. And kind of made me think of a question, which is actually, how much do you think about, or how much did you think about when you were, I guess, purchasing your clones? How much were you thinking about the fashion, and how much did kind of the fashion influence your purchase? Or now that you have obviously the files, how often do you, I guess, change the outfits? And how much does fashion kind of affect your engagement with the avatar itself? Open question for anyone who wants to take it.
Oh, I'll say really fast too, my take on yeah, no, I mean, that gets me excited. I think fashion, for one, like, I mean, I was looking at the options of avatars, and it was like even getting my own custom one built was going to cost like 10 grand. And it was like, not even stuff. It's just Murakami art, right? Like, so having that as a base, and then having like all these other creators that build pieces from the community, like whether it's the shirts or these other traits and assets, but also like imagining this kind of marketplace that will eventually happen, I think, where we can, these things are interchangeable, right? Like I own multiple clones and I swap the pieces around all the time with my fashion. And I want to build out like a digital wardrobe that I can change, kind of on the fly. And I think, man, I think that's going to be super exciting, because I really believe, like I said, that Ready Player One style world is the future, but it's like, how do we get there? It's quite a ways out, right? I think the spearhead will actually be like augmented AR, AR fashion, because everyone has a phone, in the world pretty much for the most part, and everyone can just pull their phone out and start experiencing those things. So I think, yeah, the digital side of things is actually going to be extremely important to kind of just like spearhead this entire, digital revolution that we're under.
Amen. I think for sure. It's just so exciting to think about this in almost a generative way, right? You bought an IP from a project that you love and respect as a community. You've added your own element, and who knows, you might even pass it on. I think this is an interesting concept to think about, how these assets are now being intertwined with your identity, with your stories. Don't want to reveal too much, but we've definitely thought about this a lot, creating our own new line of avatars that's going to come out soon. In terms of what mark do you leave, right? If you could potentially leave the metadata of your soul into your avatar, really, what mark would you make? We had a very nice workshop in Paris a few weeks ago discussing this full topic, but I think there's a definite yearning in the space to be able to express yourselves beyond the physical reality, which we already see, right, with projects like Artifact and CloneX, but there's going to be more. I mean, hopefully we're going to be able to express ourselves beyond kind of human norm, more into the supernatural and the species. But yeah, opening mic to everyone else.
Yeah, I think for me, I started collecting digital fashion. That was my kind of entryway into NFTs. That they were the first NFTs that I bought. For the first 6 months, I was just buying fashion NFTs on Dematerialized. So that was my kind of entry, and I knew that I wanted an avatar, but there wasn't any that I kind of connected with. And then as soon as I found CloneX, I was just like, okay, this is what I want. Like, I want all of my clothes to be available. And I knew that even though it might not be in 6 months or even a year or whatever, I knew that like one day I will be able to have like a full digital wardrobe from lots of different brands and be able to dress like the avatar, and this is the one that I wanted to do it all. So I kind of saw that like interconnection like quite early. But yeah, I mean, CloneX is the most perfect avatar, and I kind of have been speaking to many like kind of Web3 fashion brands, because it really is, we have the files, we have the capabilities of dressing our avatars today, which is something that a lot of other kind of PFP projects don't have. So we're super lucky that Artifact has enabled us to have so much like operability, like in 2023 rather than in the like near kind of future or whatever. We had it in last year, that we were able to kind of create these amazing renders and animations and anything that we wanted with these 3D files, and that just gives us so much leeway for kind of like expression, which I think is so fun. And we've seen so many of our own community members building fashion brands and fashion lines, which is super exciting. But yeah, I just think that the more avatars that come out, the more just like different dimensions of ourselves there can be. So like every time that I buy into a new project, for example, I recently bought a Valhalla. Even though that's a 2D project, I know one day, whether it's in a year or 2 years or 3 years time, that I just see that as me, but in another dimension. So I have my clone and I have my Valhalla and I have my Azuki, and they're me basically just going into different worlds. And that's how I kind of express myself within that kind of realm or whatever. So that's how I kind of see it. And I can't wait to be taking my assets into each one of those worlds. So hopefully my clone will get to wear the same outfit as my Valhalla one day. That's kind of how I see it.
I love that. This is actually kind of giving me another question, which is on the point of digital styling, actually. Because we've spoken a lot about fashion and kind of creation, but what about styling, right? I think one of the most exciting things is when, and this is such a, modern thing, right? Is that nowadays you style everything from everywhere. I mean, the best thing is when you're styling, like, I don't know, Gucci with vintage, something, from the 90s, and it's such a mix and match, and that's what really gives so much personality to street style, or in general just even to high fashion that we're seeing now. So many designers going back into the archives, and pulling looks from the archives, and kind of revamping them. So I guess, Vega, I'm going to pass this question to you because we had a few interesting chats in Paris, and you went vintage shopping. So, and we were speaking about all the beautiful necklaces that you have, and I feel like you're someone who really thinks about styling as well. So, yeah, tell me about styling your your avatar, and do you wish that there were more opportunities to style with different brands, or what are your ideas on this?
Yeah, just to kind of like take it back and answer the question you guys answered answer the question you asked earlier about when we minted Artifact and when we invested, kind of like, did we see this future of expression? To be honest, for me, I didn't. I kind of went in. I knew that Artifact was a huge digital creator and probably one of the most reputable and the most talented. So when they kind of came out with the idea that they would release a profile pic collection, it was kind of like a no-brainer. Like, okay, this is gonna be fire. Like, they got a lot of tools and they got a lot of resources to make this cool. They even build like super relatable traits. Like, their traits are literally like they take nods from like Dragon Ball Z with like the Trunks hair traits and like Yu-Gi-Oh and like these different things, which are super smart and important when you want to bring in the community, because the community, like empathy kind of brings everything together and being relatable. So they kind of hacked the system there. But then once the roadmap released, that's when things started really coming together, because a lot of people didn't really fulfill that roadmap. So when they dropped theirs saying, okay, we're going to provide the 3D files, we're going to provide the monolith and everything, that kind of like, okay, brought us like closer in and kind of like started driving more traffic. And then I don't think any of us knew that the Nike acquisition was going to happen, which then just, it made the investment and everything just locked in. Like, we know that this ecosystem is going to happen and everything's going to happen. So just to bring back that question, like, I didn't know, and it was kind of like a gut feeling that this would happen and that they would provide the files and provide the ecosystem of clothing and wearables and all like the modifications like that kind of came after. And I think that's kind of where the Artifact creator community started and built. um, but as far as the digital layer and digital styling, just like when we sat down and had our conversation and how you delved into the details that are impossible, currently impossible in the actual physical realm, that you can pull off digitally. I think that's super crucial and important when it comes to expression, because right now we can only do so much in the actual like physical space. So I think this digital layer, which also plays into the fact that it's like, if we did, if it, the saying, like, if it wasn't recorded or photographed, it didn't happen. So at this point, it's just like all of our outfits and most of our expression is expressed through digital upload and photographies and video. So once we include like this new virtual layer, just like you guys are doing, like, I feel like that it just expands the expression. It brings a whole different layer and different possibilities to expression, and it kind of like changed the ball game for styling. You know what I mean? So yeah, I hopefully that answers the question.
Oh, I love that. Definitely. I mean, so in terms of styling your clone, kind of to bring it back to the subject of avatars as well, how would you like to, have that kind of ecosystem grow out? Is there, I mean, Fawn, you were kind of earlier speaking about a wardrobe, which is beautiful. We love that. Hint, hint. Yeah. So, I mean, how would you like to, I don't know, potentially have that wardrobe grow out, or how would you like to start engaging more with your avatar and the fashion choices that you have?
Well, one of the coolest things is that, with like the 3D modeling and just like the open source to fashion, and also being able to create custom fashion, I can kind of explore worlds that I literally, similar to what I said, I can explore different worlds that I can't necessarily explore in reality, whether it's financially, whether it's just like resources or scarcity. So I think taking advantage of that in the aspect of my avatar is like, I kind of want to live my, childhood dreams of, every fashion piece or everything I ever wanted, and push it through, the digital persona of my clone. And that's the goal. It's so much time in the day, and I want to kind of like lock in and be able to lock in on it, and to start building more with it, and kind of like build a social presence, and start using my AR avatar a little bit more. But it's tough, and it's on my to-do list. But yeah, I really think like the possibilities of living those dreams, and those like digital dreams of fashion that I can't possibly accomplish right now. Like that's probably like the biggest benefit, or like the biggest plan with using my clone.
And I love these conversations, especially with creators, with artists, because that initial, curiosity or test and trial where you just want to do something exciting or express yourself, then leads into like a whole domino effect of new realities and new economy systems, and also ways of investment and monetizing your creativity. But it's exciting to just start off with the pure kind of thought of, oh, it wouldn't be amazing if I could do this, or if I can just defy my reality, and not focus so much on, how is this a full business, or how is this becoming into something else, but just focus on the pure creativity. So definitely want to engage everyone on this thought that you have to first step out, be creative, put it out there for it to blossom into something maybe more complex or groundbreaking. So yeah, well done, guys. I'm such a fan of all of your works and what you've been doing with your digital identities. It's definitely a new ways of expression. And this brings me to a thought and the news that I recently saw, and we had a conversation with Paul about this, that Instagram, or Meta, has announced that they're no longer are enabling their NFT features or ways of collecting digital goods on their platform. And it feels like such a shame, obviously, as the Web3 is bleeding into social media so naturally, right? In terms of being able to share your creativity, maybe even flex what you own, and just build off a community. So I'm wondering, how do you guys feel about this, right? Because it's no longer the same as, representing yourself as a PFP, and, letting most of your community know what you've been up to.
And I think, just to piggyback off that question, actually, is what is the in between now that Instagram is clearly defined itself as non Web3 friendly for now. Where is the in between? Does Twitter feel like it's enough for really showcasing the assets, really playing around with digital fashion and avatars, or is there even metaverse that you're interested in?
I think, coming from this kind of background, I was in sort of social commerce for most of my career before Web3. So I kind of have a good understanding of how these platforms kind of work, and how like product kind of features are shipped out on social media platforms, and kind of how the ad tech and all of that kind of works. Even though it seems like sad, I'm not really sad about it. To be honest, I think it makes sense for Meta not to be going down that route. And that's not to say that Web3 isn't important. I think it's a silly decision because, they've obviously had like time spent. I mean, it was shipped like 4 months ago, that product update. They dropped a couple of collections with like big Web3 artists like Vinny and people like that, and then to go and like basically cancel the feature, I just think it's like a waste of their resources. But I also understand it on their front, because they cannot monetize in the way that they want to with Web3, unfortunately. And so for them, it just doesn't make sense for them. You know, if they ship other features, like, they were saying, oh, we're not going to go down this route anymore, but we're going to still concentrate on how we can get creator funds and all that kind of thing. They don't want people using Web3 because they found that it takes people off of Instagram and onto OpenSea and all these kind of things. So that isn't actually a good like product for them to be integrating within Instagram. So it's almost like nothing personal with Web3. It's more to do with the fact that Facebook and Meta and whatever need to keep as much attention on their platforms as possible, because they are losing the amount of users to other platforms like TikTok, and they are absolutely struggling to keep up with ad revenue, and the money coming in from usage of their platform. So they're trying to find ways, and panicking a little bit. So I think we shouldn't really take it too badly, because it's not something, I think, as a reflection on us. Yes, we are early, and I think NFTs have got like a while until we can kind of make it into that mainstream kind of like understanding, because there obviously is like a bad reputation at the moment with NFTs. I think the way to do it is going down the kind of Reddit digital collectible route, but that's another kind of discussion or whatever. But yeah, I don't think that the news is as bearish as people are kind of making it out to be, because I think it's more on like a monetary situation with Instagram.
I think also, just to add to that, I think also from a creator's perspective, for me, it's just thinking about what platforms do I best show off my work, and where do I go now, essentially to, just be there for the creativity. What do you guys think of this?
I think, Vega, I heard
I
you.
can quick.
Oh, we have Amina.
Hi.
Hi, Amina.
Hi, ladies. How are you guys?
Good.
I'm just gonna jump. It's good, so good to hear on this conversation. I've been listening in for a while. You guys have got such a great perspective on things, and this goes out to the community. Really happy to be here, and I just wanted to quickly hop on the question, because what you said about being on different platforms and kind of using that platform for what its best uses are. I think that could have been the strategy that maybe Meta was going with as well, because as Fawn pretty much mentioned, they've kind of almost lost track of pretty much what they want to do with Web3, and they don't see one of the best ways to monetize the space. And I think they understand that to undertake and transition a whole Web3 community from pretty much Twitter and Discord onto Instagram and Facebook, which already for example Facebook has very, very low Gen Z interaction, onto their platform is going to cost them more than it's going to bring them, right? So that's already lacking. But as a creator, I mean, Instagram is one of the best places to show off your visual work. So I think going forward, what I see is all of these platforms kind of specializing in their own way. I was actually listening on Gary Vee's talk in Dubai yesterday. He was pretty much talking about this. Strangely enough, he was giving his insight about how Facebook stories are going to be the next big thing. Not sure how that's going to play out, to be honest, but yeah, I know that was really
Good luck
shocking. I was like,
getting Gen Z back into Facebook or into Facebook. Full stop.
That's what I thought too. And I mean, later a friend of mine was like, "Oh, well, he's friends with Mark," and I was like, "Okay, well, this is just clearly a PR move on his end. But yeah, I mean, going forward, everybody pretty much has or is trying to go through a TikTokification, right, to fit the perspective of Gen Z and our attention spans, which I think pretty much going down is going to be a necessary step. But aside from that, you know, they all have their own niches. And I think we need to kind of play the platforms and be the best in all the platforms that offer their unique angles at it.
I mean,
Yeah.
for me, like when most people, when I talk to about this in this space, like they were kind of confused. They didn't really even know that, you know, Instagram and Meta had these NFT integrations, because I guess they didn't really roll them out like, uh, you know, in grand fashion, really. But like the average person on Instagram, I don't think even particularly likes the term NFTs. Like Fawn was saying, like we have to kind of get away from the narrative, right? Because it's pretty strong, and kind of focus on, you know, reshaping it to where it can be more welcoming, like the proverbial, you know, we are early. But I think it can be dangerous to kind of build on these models a bit too, like because people don't quite understand like the ethos, like why we're here in Web3, right? Like all of these platforms, whether it's Instagram, you know, Facebook or TikTok, they're closed walled gardens, right? Like it, whether it's social media or a game or anything, it's like they're your assets, your creations, any form of identity or reputation, they all live only there in that platform, right? And you can lose access to that at any point in time. And it's happened to me on multiple platforms over the years, right? And it's very frustrating and can be debilitating. And especially if you're trying to build an entire career, you know, as a content creator, right? And then they can just take that, you know, at the drop of a coin. So I think like, you know, yeah, I mean, now we have Twitter, like that's probably the way most people share their Web3 content, you know, but it's like we've seen the limitations of that. I believe the new CEO of YouTube is very Web3 friendly, so maybe we might see some sort of integration there. But really, I think it's a good time to focus on the building and creating a base for, like, you know, staying with this decentralized version and finding ways that we can all create and still own our stuff, right? Like, because Web3 was about, you know, just only being a consumer, right? You could just download one page of something and you could just consume that content. And then Web3 gave us social media, and it allowed you to actually be a content creator, and you could add to the stuff that people are consuming. But now with Web3, it's really important because we can actually become owners, right? And ultimately, the trio of all three we can do. And I think that's what's really, really important to kind of drive like the narrative moving forward. If we can kind of reshape the negative aspects of Web3, right?
Yeah. I think that's such an important point, because really what you're kind of saying is, you know, if the seed is rotten, the rest of the tree probably, you know, doesn't look too good either. And that is how most of the current, you know, social medias have been built up, from a very different ethos, from quite a different period of time of the internet. As we know, I mean, the internet moves so quickly and technology moves so quickly, and I think a lot of values have changed so much over that time. I mean, essentially, we're moving from social media to community media. So I personally don't think that Discord is going to be around forever. I also don't think that Twitter is really going to be the end all and be all medium, which is you know, crazy saying that because we're all here on Twitter now. But anyway, I guess, Johnny, I'd love to kind of hand you that question, because I know you have quite a big, obviously, audience on Instagram and on Twitter. I mean, where would you, as a content creator and as a collector, from both kind of angles of both the creation and the discovery side, like to experience more of a, you know, a Web3 image based community media?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? I think we all just want to see the content of the people that we follow. We can't even get that on these social platforms, which is really frustrating, honestly. I think way back in the day when it first started, that's how it was, and that's kind of what got us hooked, in the way that you follow people that you like, and you follow artists that you liked, and you would see their content, and you were able to interact with it. And now it's all based off of financial gain, in the way that how much are you paying us to show your stuff, right? It's just the way it is, because they're public companies, right? They need to get their money for their shareholders, and the only way to get that is by forcing people to pay for their access. And unfortunately, that's just the way social media is run out. So I'm hoping there's platforms that are developed that aren't out yet, right? I think this is where it's interesting as I look for the future, right? All of this is based off of future, right? Is we help build it out, but it's the thought of the future of like hopefully there is a social platform that really comes out, whether it is Twitter, whether it is something else, that it allows you to actually feel like you're connected to your community, truly, and feeling that quote unquote decentralized feeling in a way where we're not just talking about it, and it is, right. And so, for me, what Alt said, right, is it could be taken away from you in a millisecond. And I, working with product and working with a brand like Nike and Jordan and working on a lot of different collaborations with a lot of brands, I unfortunately did get stuck in one of those positions at one point that we used a brand's logo on a product, and my Instagram was taken away after 8.5 years of working on it, posting content on it, original content on it every single day for 8.5 years, and it was erased within a millisecond. Thank goodness, I know a lot of people, and within 72 hours, it was brought back up. But engagement really hasn't been the same since, and I know why, right? So I refuse to pay these platforms for promotion in certain aspects, right? So yeah, we have this thought of a dystopian future in a way where we hope social media can come to the point where we can just share our work, co-collaborate, co-create, connect. That's why I've kind of moved from Instagram to Twitter over really the last year and a half, and being a part of the community like Artifact, and just being part of spaces like this where you can kind of connect from people all over the world at any time during the day, where you can just hop into a random conversation, and then all of a sudden you have a connection where you got hungry people on the other end trying to fulfill the same goal and dream, right? So this is where it's been kind of cool over the last year and a half, really being able to utilize a platform like this that I really kind of slept on, and as it's kind of transforming. And but yeah, that's kind of like my 2 cents in a way. I just want to be able to just connect with the people I want to connect with, and really kind of yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really does boil down to kind of the basics that you've mentioned, is like you just want to have good conversations and just see the art from the people that you love. So I wonder whether, there really is ever going to be another quote unquote social media, because potentially we've just all moved beyond that phase of social media now, and maybe we are getting into a phase of just engaging with content completely different, and maybe that is moving I mean, not anytime soon, but moving towards the metaverse. Although I don't know which metaverse that is at all right now. It's not it's definitely not going to be, I think, any of the ones around at the moment. Maybe that's a bit of a controversial thing to say, but anyway, here it is. What do you guys think? I'm going to pass on the mic again.
I think that as soon as we get a social media platform that has, pretty much what Twitter Spaces is doing, right, which is bringing people together to have a conversation, um, and does it well, right? Like no more rug pulling kind of things, no more getting rugged and stuff like that. I mean, so that kind of platform where people can actually sit down, have a chat, have a community, just like this one, that's when things are going to escalate. Because the one thing that Meta pretty much missed the mark on, I don't know if you guys saw the announcement, but there was an announcement that they created something called a community, like an Instagram community, which was content creators basically creating like a personalized DM chat where they can just push out like almost announcements, send DMs to a group of people, but it would only be one-way communication. And I made a whole LinkedIn post about that, and I was like, this is not how you this is not how you bring people together for conversation. This is just literally PSA announcements, and that's that's not how we grow community. That's not how we grow awareness. That's if anything, it pretty much does nothing. And from what I've seen, they haven't really pushed that out properly. It hasn't really worked as well. So in my eyes, I mean, it could be Twitter, it could be anything really. Or it could be something new, maybe a Web3 social media platform, which would be, I think, really cool. As long as they bring people together to have a genuine conversation.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, communication can't be just one way. And that's, I think, what went really wrong with all the following and, just listening in and not being able to contribute or make it your own, right? Or find your own tribe and be part of it and feel kind of engaged and connected to. There are a few platforms that we're eyeing ourselves. For example, Geneva. I think it's very popular in US now, not so much in the rest of the world, but maybe it's going to bleed over. I don't know if any of you guys are already on that platform. If so, make sure to comment. I would love to know your experience and if you're thinking to move that way as well. But it's, I think, again, up to this openness and creativity that we need to test and see and maybe even slightly show and dictate how it's best to expose our artwork, how it's best to connect with it, and have these communities. Definitely Discord is a little bit of help when you can gather everybody in one space and like continue following up on the project, but we need other ways and maybe more in real life meetups. We enjoyed to meeting some of you in Paris with all the conferences and the festivals going on. So having that in real life crossbeat would be super exciting. And obviously we're here today to speak about the fashion aspect a lot and the avatars and seeing those, aspects built in real life, like Johnny was mentioning with the sneakers, or maybe it's going to be avatars as statues. It's definitely going to become more of a reality, I think, when the digital is impacting your real life. So, yeah. I leave the mic open for anyone else, but I am wary of time. We have just a few minutes left, so if there are any questions or anyone wants to hop on the stage as well, feel free to raise your hand and I will allow you on the stage.
I just wanted to ask about the avatars. Is there any kind of tweets or anything that you can pin up to the top where we can find some more information, or is that still like quite on the down low?
Yeah, it's still on the DL. I'm sorry. we've given you a little bit of alpha for today,
Leave it
but
up to fun.
you're gonna have to watch this space.
Out of you.
Yeah, I got to get the alpha.
I love that. I mean, let's say this. There's gonna be more than one gender, which is quite exciting because last time, obviously, when we released our first collection, it was female only or gender neutral and female. Mostly, and we've heard the men loud and clear. They also want the fashion, so I'm sorry guys for discluding you from the first collection. We've designed for you this time around, we promise. So there'll be loads of beautiful pieces for you, and it's going to be a very, very unique collection. We're very, very excited for the fashion, and hopefully it'll really give you some very exciting incentive and new capabilities of engaging with digital fashion. Like a lot of the topics that we've spoken about today and kind of the hopes and wants for what people now desire for digital fashion is what we've been working on. So that's about as much alpha as you're going to get out of us.
I made
I'll take it.
Something not so controversial, but as we were speaking today, there's a lot of learning points, right? A lot of things that went wrong with a lot of projects, or just, again, the desires haven't been met. So we've been learning a lot from that, and we've had our heads down and kind of cooking away behind the scenes for so long. So we feel very liberated to finally start showing some of the work, and we couldn't help ourselves and put it on as our PFP straight away. But there's going to be a lot where we hope the members of our growing community are going to see themselves, or see the better version of themselves within those avatars, in those species, and have the opportunity to express themselves, maybe in a new aesthetic or language that they just haven't seen before. So we're all about that liberation and that hero moment for yourself, and obviously finding a like-minded community of creators, collectors, fashion enthusiasts. And we also have a lot of students. So we look to the even more newer and upcoming generation who's gonna hopefully trailblaze in a better direction than our predecessors.
Yeah, and I think on that note, actually, we'd obviously really love to hear what you guys want from digital fashion. Where do you see it going? How do you want to engage with your assets? Because that's really exciting for us, and that's exactly what we're working on. From digital to physical, as always. We've been physical and digital from the beginning, and we're going to be building out more and more throughout the years. And we really want to listen to you guys and be able to translate that through our craft and the incredible talent that we have in house as well. We're definitely going to do a spaces as well at some point with our amazing artists, so you get to meet everyone. There's been some incredible talent from all across working on the collection, so there will be more alpha soon, promise.
Love
And I
to hear
think I think on that alpha note, we're probably going to close off the spaces. But yeah, any last notes, everyone? Thank you so much for joining. Share any digital fashion desires, hopes, and dreams. Maybe that's the last thing that we share for today. What are your dreams and hopes for digital fashion? We'll start with Alts because you're the first on my screen. Go ahead.
No, I mean, first of all, thank you guys for putting on the space. It's been great to hear everyone's thoughts. And you guys, what you're building is just so inspirational to so many creators out there. So just keep it up. And I love the way you're merging worlds. What do I want to see about digital fashion? Is just more of this continued growth. Like, I want to see, the great thing about Web3 is that you can kind of bridge that gap, like what Johnny's doing, right? Like, you have more of a voice in this space. To even we're connecting right now, we're sitting here talking with an amazing project and creators, and you can't really do that in Web2 the same, right? So I just want to see more of that kind of growth and connectivity just get fostered out, and let everyone get dripped out out in the multiverse. So.
On to you, Johnny.
Yeah, I mean, Alt said it best. I'll just second what he said. Yeah, the possibilities are endless. Yeah, just keep showing up every single day, connect with the people that have the same like-minded thoughts for the future, and just keep working, keep building, keep designing, and future will be bright. Appreciate you guys for having me, honestly.
Thank you so much. You're fantastic. We're excited to, have you as a collector soon, hopefully. We really hope you like the shoes, actually. Maybe we need to run them past you before we release them. Okay, Fawn, your turn.
Yeah, I mean, how am I supposed to go after Alts? He says everything so well. But no, I'm really excited to just continue seeing like new creators kind of come into this space. I think that's one of the most exciting things about Web3 is that you can be based anywhere in the world, unlike normal fashion where like it takes a lot for you to have to create designs and be able to like get the manufacturing done and everything. There's like a cost to all of that, whereas like with this it can be a 14-year-old with a laptop wherever in the world, just playing around, experimenting, and being able to upload it to a digital fashion site, and just giving the tools to people that never had that kind of foot in the door before. So I think that's really exciting for creativity across the board, and can't wait to see what that kind of brings to the space. But yeah, thank you so much for having us. It's honestly been an amazing discussion.
Thank you. CJ, on to you. We lost you there for a moment, but I pulled you back on stage. Thank you. Okay, your turn.
Yeah, sorry guys. I literally had like a call pop up in a conflict. But thank you so much, and I appreciate you for the platform, and yeah, super excited for the future.
Thank you, CJ. Good luck on the call. I think Amina, because you came up on stage, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Just firstly want to thank you ladies for taking the time, hosting such a great space and having me on here. Yeah, looking forward to what you guys have to offer. And I think going off of that, as everyone pretty much mentioned, having more people in the space is absolutely key. Continuing to educate people. But I think more on the creator side, what I'm really hoping to see is maybe some development with the poly rates and ways we can actually translate our work into the digital world. Hopefully, please, because one of the most disappointing parts of designing fashion, for me at least, right, with Crown, is that when I design a fantastic, well, obviously in my perspective, something that I believe is one of my best pieces, I have to then go back and just completely crumble it apart. And, that's just so heartbreaking. And I really, really hope that, the development just keeps going exponentially as it has been up to now. And, actually getting some good graphics and playable characters that mimic, the art that we actually create. So that's something I'm looking forward to.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. No, preach on that, honestly. We want better graphics.
Well,
Definitely. So we're waiting for the metaverses, but in the meantime, we'll link up and discuss how to improve that. Elisa, on to you.
oh well, I think we definitely gonna show what we want. We're gonna break the molds. Anyway, Paula, can't stop us now. We're gonna break all the softwares and try to make it happen.
Yeah, no pressure on us, right?
We haven't been at it for so long, might as well. But thank you so much, everyone, for coming in. I truly believe that technology needs to be built around people, right? And it needs to be emotive and it needs to fulfill our needs. It's a tool, it's not the end and be all for everything. So I appreciate you coming on stage and voicing your opinions and sharing your work. I think it's still very new to us as well as creative directors to have this opportunity to speak as well. It's usually been, our work speaks for itself, or we've been always behind the scenes, but embracing these new ways of connecting the community and sharing our thoughts, and likewise hearing yours has been absolutely amazing. And we all need to keep it up because we are all collectively building our future. So thank you again.
Thank you, everyone. See you soon.
Thank you, everyone. It was amazing.
Yep.
Thank you.
So thank you everyone for joining in. It was a great space. Thank you to Alisa and Paula for moderating this space. So before we end this space, I want to announce about the poems. So as we are distributing the poems in this space, to get the poems, guys, you just have to quote retweet this space. So the person who quote retweet the space, you're gonna get a DM with the link to get the poem. All the speakers on this panel, you're gonna get DMs directly. So don't worry on that part. And yeah, that's how you get the poems, guys. Once again, thank you for joining in, everyone. It was a great space and was a pleasure to listening to all the speakers. Thank you again, Alisa and Paula, and see you guys next time next week in our next Twitter space. Thanks so much.
See you. Bye bye.